Alright, so in today's video, we're going to talk about the best tips for getting a better accuracy in aiming as well. So most of these tips are going to be applicable regardless if you're on controller or you're playing on PC, because everybody needs to find their right sensitivity, and there are a lot of basic understanding and fundamentals that everyone needs to go to regardless of whatever platform you're playing on. So we're going to talk about everything from finding your perfect sensitivity to dead zones, as well as centering, and also a bonus private match exercise that you can do and practice to help you finding your best sensitivity. So if you guys do enjoy the content or find it helpful, let me know down below in the comments, and leave a like on this video if you did, and make sure to subscribe to make your way back to the channel. Join Turbo Nation today, make it official, and let's get on with the video. All right, so first things first is you want to go into a private match. The whole point of this is to be able to just focus on the skill of building your better aim and accuracy so that you don't have to worry about dying. It's no big deal if you're going to die to a bot. So first things first, let's go over the settings. Obviously, you want to go into a custom game, and then for the game setup, the main thing you do want to focus on here is changing the map. So for a map, you do want to choose a much smaller map. That way you get more engagements, because if you're on a bigger map, obviously you're not going to get as much engagements. Mode is going to be free for all here, and for the game rules, you do want to change the time limit to unlimited. Score limit is going to be unlimited as well. Next up, you do want to change your bot difficulty. You want to change this to recruit. The only reason why is so that you can focus on your gunfights, your aiming, and your accuracy. You don't really have to worry too much about dying, so it gives you a much better chance of focusing on the task at hand, which is obviously improving your aim. All right, now if you go over to the game rules and you switch over to the team tab, you go to the radar always on. You want to have this on constant. That way you know where to find your engagements, and it's always on. It essentially acts as an advanced UAV in that sense, so this is going to help out as well, and make sure the minimap is enabled. All right, now the next step that you want to do is set up your class setup. So you can use an SMG or an assault rifle. In this case, I'm using an assault rifle, and this is going to be the STG-44. Now the main thing that we do want to do here is use attachments that is going to reduce that hip fire spread as much as we possibly can. So on the STG specifically, it is the Carver foregrip. As you can see, it makes your hip fire accuracy a lot better. So we want to have as much accuracy as possible when we're hip firing, because that's the main concept of what this exercise is going to be. And once we get into the private match, you're going to see why. The next attachment we're going to want to use is an extended magazine. So for this one, it's the 8mm 𝗪𝗓 45 round drum, just so that we can put in as many shots as possible, and we don't have to worry too much about reloading. We can just focus on our aim. Now for the rear grip, we're going to be using the pine tar grip once again, because it helps out with our hip fire accuracy. So all this stuff is very important regardless if you're using an SMG or an assault rifle. So you're just going to use a weapon of your liking, whichever one that you do want to go ahead and practice on. All right, so first let's talk about dead zone settings. So it's actually pretty simple. So as you can see, my character is just drifting, and I'm not touching my controller at all. So this is basically called a stick drift. So this is going to vary from controller to controller depending on how old or new your controller is. Most newer controllers, you're not really going to experience this, but when there's a little bit more wear and tear on your controller, you might get a lot of stick drift. To prevent this from happening, all you have to do is just go into your settings, go into the controller tab. You got to scroll down, find your dead zone settings, and the settings that you do want to pay attention to is the left stick and right stick input dead zone. The more that I increase this, the less my player should be moving. So for example, if I bump it all the way up, both of these to 27, as you can see in the background, my guy has already stopped moving. So this is exactly what you want to do. It depends on a controller that you have, and you just want to tweak the settings. So just make sure that your character is not moving at all, and then you're going to be just fine. So you want to start off with 0, and then you want to bump it up little by little. And then as soon as you get to that number where your character stops moving, both forward and also when you're scanning the area, then that is when you found your perfect dead zone. All right, so generally when it comes to finding your sensitivity, it's actually rather simple. So typically I advise people to start off with either a very low sensitivity or very high sensitivity, and then you walk around in a private match and try to aim your crosshairs on target. And if you're not able to take a steady aim on your target and be as accurate as possible, then you have to adjust your sensitivity as needed. For example, let's start off with insane sensitivity. I already know this is going to be too much for me to handle, so we're going to try to find an engagement here. All right, and already this is just way too much. Yes, we did hit our target there, but in most cases, it's going to be really hard to go ahead and get an accurate shot. So let's go ahead and bump this sensitivity down a little bit more. Let's say down to, I don't know, 8. All right, let's go ahead and try to find an engagement. So I'm already feeling a big difference here in the control and the accuracy that I have. Again, you want to get those crosshairs aligned up with your target as much as you possibly can. So as long as you can get your crosshairs centered and as accurate as possible, that is how you know what sensitivity is going to be right for you. So personally, I feel like I could bump my sensitivity down just a little bit more. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's change it down to 6. All right. Just going to look for some engagements here. Obviously, we have our minimap showing us where they are. Get those crosshairs as centered as possible. So now, the lower you drop your sensitivity, the much more steady your shots should be in an accurate manner. Okay, obviously, we're not going to be able to get a shot off from that range if you're hip firing. So as you can see, my sensitivity and the control and overall feel of the gun is a lot smoother, much more accurate, and my shots are now hitting at a higher percentage, and that's what we want. So this is exactly how you find that right sensitivity and find the perfect one for you. No matter the distance, make sure your crosshairs are able to be lined up and as accurate as possible. All right, so now let's actually talk about the reason for centering and why it's super important. I feel like most casual or new Call of Duty players seem to overlook this. So it's basically really simple. That white circle in the middle of your screen in between those crosshairs is what you want to line up with your target. So the reason behind this is because once you're able to get perfect lining with your target and your crosshairs, all you have to do is simply aim down sight. And this is so much better than just aiming down sight and then having to drag your crosshair. It's a lot slower. Yeah, you'll still hit your target, but in a real life situation, you know, it's going to be a lot slower. Whereas, let's say, let me go ahead and heal up here first. Try to get into an engagement. So I know someone's coming here around this corner. All I have to do is just aim in. That was a pretty bad example there. And there you go. See how my crosshairs was already pointed at the target? And all I have to do is aim down sight and fire my weapon. So this is something that you need to practice in a private match, and it's going to yield better results versus just aiming down sights, for example, like this, and then dragging your crosshairs. So let's try to get a nice little streak here going. But first, practice with the hip fire. Practice with the hip fire and then graduate onto aiming down sights. Because once you get this centering and hip firing down, it'll be so much easier when you're able to aim down sights. A lot of time is not wasted when you're already centered. You already know your crosshairs are on the target. Again, it's better than just aiming down sights already and then dragging it onto your target, if that makes sense. So here's another one. There you go. Saves you a lot of time and puts you a couple of steps ahead of the enemy. And also try to keep your crosshairs in the center of your screen as well. Don't walk around, you know, doing this with your crosshairs, because again, it just goes back to that concept of having to put your crosshairs in the middle of your screen when you're trying to engage in a gunfight, and that's just going to waste a lot of time. Call of Duty is a fast-paced shooter, so you need to be as optimal as possible when it comes to your gunfights. All right, let's try to get a few more rounds in here. And this is the advantage of having that constant sweep on the minimap, so that you're not wasting time as well. You're getting as much engagements as possible playing on a small map. And you can put in as many bots as you want, but keep in mind, it might be a little overwhelming for you. So me personally, I have about 10 bots in this lobby. And this is sufficient enough for a lobby of this size. So again, find an engagement. Center those crosshairs. Keep your crosshairs in the middle of the screen. There you go. My crosshairs were already centered. All I had to do was aim down sight. And I got the shot. So I would definitely practice this if you're new to Call of Duty or you've never picked up a controller before. This is a good little exercise to do and practice before you actually get into real matches. That way you're a lot more prepared. It's all about practice. If you want to get better, it's all about practice. Hey, these bots are actually pretty aggressive for Recruit, in my opinion. There you go. And always get ready. You know, prepare. Every time you go into a new area, always assume that there is going to be an opponent there. And even if we die, it's no big deal. That's the main advantage of playing in a private match. So every new area, you always want to assume there's an opponent there. That way, you're ready. Your crosshairs are centered. They're in the middle of the screen. There you go. There it is. Easy money. Again, here's an example of what not to do. So you don't want to be doing this. You know, this is just wasting a lot of time. It's not accurate. And by then you'll probably be already dead. Perfect. All right, so now let's talk about the two different types of aim assist and how it works in Call of Duty. So you have aim down sight slowdown as well as rotational aim assist. So rotational aim assist is when you're not aim down sight and you put your crosshair over a target. Like, let me try to get as close enough as possible here. And you're gonna see the closer I get to my target, the more my aim slows down. As you can see, that's that rotational aim assist. So it's really useful in close quarter combat situations. You know, that's not me touching the aim at all. It's really the aim assist working on its own. You see how it just locks onto the opponent and it rotates with them. All right. Now ADS slowdown is when you're aiming down sights, and when you hover over a target, notice how it slows down a little bit here. So this is something that you do want to play with in your ADS sensitivity. Bump it down or up, you know, depending on what feels comfortable for you. So for me, it's 0.8. It's always been 0.8 in mostly all Call of Duties that offer this setting. And this is something that you want to play with. And when you couple this with the centering, you know, this is the result you get. You get a much more accurate shot. Ooh. So let's go ahead and apply everything here. We know the aim assist, rotational, and aim down sight slowdown time. All right, we're locked in here. Crosshair on opponent. You know, and these are very important basic fundamentals that every good Call of Duty player puts to practice. This is how everybody should learn. You know, and once you practice enough, you know, you can start, you know, being a lot more accurate with your shot. Practice makes perfect. And just get used to the movement and the rotational aspect of your aim assist. So we can move around the map just a little bit faster now. Keeping those crosshairs locked in on my opponent. Perfect. Perfect. All right, now the last and final thing I do want to talk about with these tips are burst firing and predicting the recoil pattern. So obviously this is also essential to having a perfect aim. So burst firing is basically something that is useful when you're firing a weapon at longer distances. It's just going to allow you to have a much more accurate shot. Here's a quick little example. So I'm just tapping. I'm tapping on my trigger here. You know, I'm not holding down the trigger like this. Now, as you can see, the more that I hold down on that trigger, the more crazy the recoil gets. Whereas if I were to just tap on it, which is the burst fire, like this, and this is something that you would only want to do at longer ranges. When you're engaging in a longer range combat, this is going to be especially helpful and will give you a much more accurate shot. So you got to be quick with your bursts. All right, next up, I do want to talk about the predictive recoil. So for example, with the STG, if we hold this down, see that recoil? Okay, you can't really see it here, but it starts from here and it goes up a little vertically and off to the right. So in order to counteract this, we know the recoil pattern, so we just want to counteract the opposite direction when we're pulling down our thumbstick on the right side. So let's go ahead. Okay, that was a bad example. Give me 1 second. Is slightly tug down and to the left. Okay, so you don't want to overdo it. You just want to slightly tug down and to the left, because we know the predictive recoil pattern of this gun is going to go up and slightly to the right. So basically do the opposite when you're aiming down sights, and this is especially something that you want to do at longer ranges. This is what's going to help you control that recoil. Nice little double there. And every gun, by the way, has their own special recoil pattern. So if you really want to master how all these weapons work and get the best recoil possible, it's all about the attachments you use, obviously, but also the recoil patterns and also the little burst firing that you can do from long range. You know, all these little techniques, they all add up. The centering, knowing how the aim assist works, and using those techniques to your advantage. Just like that. All right, so that about wraps it up for today's video. So if you guys did enjoy, you found the video helpful, a like is definitely appreciated. It lets me know I'm doing something right. Make sure to subscribe to make your way back to the channel. Join Turbo Nation today. Let's hit 200,000 subscribers. I would really appreciate it if you could help me get there, and I will see you guys in the next video. Yo, if you guys are always on your computer all day or you like to game for long sessions, definitely check out gameradvantage.com for these blue light blocking glasses. Quite literally the best blue light glasses that you can ever find on the market. Make sure to check out gameradvantage.com and just learn more about it, man. There's so many benefits to keeping your eyes nice and healthy. You won't feel that strain at the end of the day, and you'll go to sleep like a baby at the end of the day, and that's the best part. You won't feel tired at all. Definitely check out gameradvantage.com. Use code TURBO at checkout.